On the bustling space station Elvora Prime, humans and aliens mingled in a cacophony of languages, lights, and aromas. The trade convergence was in full swing, and delegates from every known star system were present, hawking wares, negotiating treaties, and trading cultural knowledge. Elvora was humanity's diplomatic foothold in the galactic community, a shimmering testament to their adaptability. Ronan Holst, Earth's senior culinary ambassador, stood in his booth, a modest display surrounded by exotic cuisines and molecular wonders that defied human comprehension. Beside him, a steel smoker puffed lazily, exhaling aromatic plumes of hickory and mesquite. A sign hung over the booth that read, "Barbecue the taste of Earth." It was a risky venture for the convergence, but Ronan had staked his reputation on it. The line of curious onlookers moved sluggishly. Skeptical aliens observed the smoky process with what could only be described as confusion and mild alarm. Among them, a tall, insectoid figure with shimmering, chitinous plating hesitated near the booth. The creature was a Ziltran, and Ronan had learned that their species governed their gastronomic choices with almost religious precision. "Why do you burn meat?" the Ziltran asked, its multifaceted eyes blinking asynchronously. Ronan, already accustomed to this question, smiled. "We're not burning it. We're smoking it, slowly cooking it over wood to develop flavor and tenderize the meat." The Ziltran clicked its mandibles skeptically. "This seems inefficient." Ronan chuckled. "It's not just about efficiency. It's about the experience, the depth of flavor, the connection to tradition. Would you like to try it?" The Ziltran hesitated. Their species was notorious for their fastidious diet of unprocessed plant matter and crystalline protein clusters. Still, curiosity got the better of it. "I will observe first." Ronan nodded, placing a hefty brisket on the cutting board. The meat was glossy with a caramelized crust, known to barbecue enthusiasts as the bark he sliced into it, revealing layers of tender pink flesh kissed by the smoke ring. A faint hiss escaped as the juices pooled. The scent, a melange of savory, smoky, and sweet, wafted toward the Ziltran, whose antennae quivered involuntarily. "Smells good, doesn't it?" Ronan grinned, cutting a small piece and placing it on a sample plate. The Ziltran recoiled slightly. "This carbonized material cannot be edible." "Trust me," Ronan said. "Just one bite." Other alien species in the vicinity paused to watch. Ronan's booth was quickly becoming a spectacle. Murmurs spread through the crowd, an Earth human convincing a Ziltran to try their peculiar ritual of burning meat. The Ziltran, clearly unwilling to show weakness in front of the growing audience, took the plate. With the elegance of a surgeon, it plucked the morsel using one of its spindly appendages, and brought it to what Ronan presumed was its mandible-like mouth. The crowd held its collective breath. The Ziltran froze mid-bite. Then it emitted a series of rapid clicks that Ronan couldn't interpret. A greenish hue flickered across its iridescent exoskeleton, a sign of agitation or perhaps revelation. It began, mandibles twitching, is transformative. Ronan clapped his hands. "I knew you'd like it." "What is this blackened crust, this rich, smoky essence? It speaks of ages past, of a world forged in fire and determination." The Ziltran's voice took on an almost reverent tone, "and yet it is soft as a silken larva beneath." "That's the bark and the smoke ring," Ronan explained. "It's the hallmark of good barbecue." Before the Ziltran could reply, a booming voice interrupted. "Did you say transformative?" Ronan turned to see an imposing Zygarn, a species known for their competitive edge and unrelenting need to dominate any challenge. The Zygarn's boulder-like form lumbered toward the booth, displacing smaller beings with careless ease. "If it is transformative, I will try it as well," the Zygarn declared, slamming a heavy hand onto the counter. The Ziltran, clearly irked by the intrusion, clicked its mandibles aggressively. "You cannot comprehend the subtleties of this culinary masterpiece, brute." Ronan sensed a potential altercation brewing and quickly sliced another piece of brisket. "No need to fight. There's plenty for everyone." The Zygarn grabbed the sample plate with fingers like tree trunks and popped the brisket into its massive mouth. For a moment it chewed mechanically, its four eyes narrowing. Then its stony face softened, and its deep-set eyes glistened with what Ronan could only interpret as joy. This meat. The Zygarne's voice trembled. It is a conquest of flavor, a triumph over mediocrity. Words spread like wildfire. Soon a line stretched from Ronan's booth to the far end of the convergence hall. Species of all shapes and sizes queued for a taste of Earth's smoked brisket, each bringing their own skepticism, only to leave converted. The smoky aroma became a beacon, drawing delegates away from high-tech displays and elaborate alien feasts. Even the staunchest critics couldn't deny the allure of Ronan's barbecue. By the end of the day, Ronan was drenched in sweat, his smoker nearly emptied of its contents. But as he leaned back to catch his breath, he realized the true magnitude of what had happened. Humans, the galactic newcomers, had won over the most diverse gathering of species in the known universe, not with technology, philosophy, or diplomacy, but with the simple art of barbecue. And somewhere in the crowd, a Ziltran and a Zygarne argued passionately about the merits of smoked versus grilled. The trade convergence on Elvora Prime buzzed with energy. Ronan's barbecue booth had become an unlikely epicenter of intrigue and debate, a place where centuries-old rivalries between alien species took a back seat to the smoky allure of brisket. But as the initial frenzy subsided, a new set of challenges emerged. The Ziltran, still marveling at the culinary experience, had returned, this time flanked by others of its kind. Their iridescent exoskeletons shimmered under the station's artificial light, their antennae twitching with barely concealed excitement. "We have considered your process," the Ziltran leader, identified as Kelma, began. "It is inefficient, wasteful, and peculiar. However, the results cannot be denied. We wish to understand your methods." Ronan wiped his hands on his grease-streaked apron and gestured toward the smoker. "I'd be happy to show you how it's done. It starts with good meat, a quality rub of spices, and most importantly, patience." Kelna tilted its head. "Patience. Yeah, patience. It takes hours, sometimes an entire day, to get it just right. The smoke needs time to penetrate the meat, to tenderize it." Kelna clicked its mandibles in what Ronan assumed was an expression of disbelief. "You invest entire solar cycles into this endeavor." Ronan nodded. "It's worth it. The time is what makes it special." As he spoke, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd, the Zygarne who had tried the brisket earlier. Its immense frame loomed over the booth as it glared down at the Ziltrans. "Patience is irrelevant," the Zygarne boomed, slamming its fist onto the counter. "The flavor comes from the fire. Your method wastes time that could be spent conquering other pursuits." Ronan sighed, sensing another argument brewing. "Look, there's no single way to appreciate barbecue. For humans, it's about the journey as much as the result." The Zygarne growled. "Show me this journey. I will prove that swiftness and strength surpass your so-called patience." Kelna interjected, clicking furiously. "Typical Zygarne arrogance. You cannot rush perfection." Ronan rubbed his temples. All right. If you're both so interested, how about this? I'll teach you both how to smoke meat. You can decide for yourselves what makes it great." The following morning, Ronan found himself presiding over an impromptu barbecue workshop. The Ziltran delegation arrived with meticulous note-taking devices, analyzing every detail with scientific precision. Kelna had even brought samples of their crystalline protein clusters, insisting that they could serve as a superior substitute for the meat. The Zygarne, on the other hand, had brought a portable forge and insisted on improving Ronan's smoker with reinforced alloys and thermal regulators. "This device is frail," the Zygarne declared, glaring at Ronan's battered steel contraption. "It must be made worthy of the challenge." "It works fine," as Ronan argued, but the Zygarne was already dismantling the smoker, sparks flying as it welded new components onto the frame. Kelna observed the chaos with a disapproving twitch of its antennae. "Typical brute. Your fixation on force blinds you to the artistry of this process." Ronan stepped between them, hands raised. "Look, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but barbecue isn't just about tools or speed. It's about balance, heat, smoke, and seasoning all working together." The Zygarne snorted. "Balance is for the weak. Power produces results. Kelna chittered in rebuttal. Power alone is meaningless without understanding. Ronan sighed. You're both missing the point. Why don't we just focus on cooking? Reluctantly, the two delegations agreed. Under Ronan's guidance, they seasoned briskets with a homemade spice rub and loaded them into the smoker. The Siltrans meticulously documented every step, while the Zygarn muttered impatiently about the unnecessary complexity of the process. As the hours ticked by, the aroma of hickory and spices filled the air, drawing curious onlookers. Delegates from other species began to gather, fascinated by the unfolding spectacle. The tension between the Xiltrans and the Zygarn remained palpable, but the shared act of cooking seemed to diffuse some of the hostility. I must admit, Kelna said, watching the smoker with an uncharacteristic hint of admiration, there is a certain elegance to this ritual. The Zygarn grunted. It is tolerable. Ronan chuckled. See? You're starting to get it. Barbecue brings people together. Kelna tilted its head. People, or disparate entities united by fleeting sensory pleasure. Either way, Ronan said with a shrug, it works. When the briskets were finally ready, Ronan sliced into them with practiced precision. The Siltrans and Zygarn crowded around, each eager to taste the fruits of their labor. As the first bites were taken, a profound silence fell over the group. Kelna's antennae quivered. Remarkable, the interplay of flavors. An intricate dance of chemical reactions. The Zygarn nodded grudgingly. It is. Acceptable. Perhaps even commendable. Ronan grinned. Told you. But just as the group began to relax, an announcement echoed through the convergence hall. Attention, all delegates. The Galactic Culinary Council has requested an immediate demonstration of humanity's barbecue process. Proceed to the main stage. Ronan blinked. The Galactic Culinary Council. Kelna clicked in alarm. This is unprecedented. The Council oversees all intergalactic food traditions. Their approval is highly sought after and exceedingly rare. The Zygarn stood, its massive frame casting a shadow over Ronan. We must prepare. Failure is not an option. Ronan felt a bead of sweat roll down his temple. Teaching two feuding alien species was one thing. Impressing the Galactic Culinary Council? That was a whole other challenge. The announcement from the Galactic Culinary Council sent a ripple of excitement and trepidation through the convergence hall. Delegates craned their necks to watch as Ronan, flanked by the Xiltrans and Zygarn, hastily prepared for their unexpected spotlight. The council's stage was a marvel of technology and design, gleaming surfaces of polished obsidian, holographic displays shimmering in alien alphabets, and a centerpiece so imposing it seemed to command reverence. A panel of 5 judges sat atop a dais, each representing a different species, their expressions inscrutable. Ronan whispered to himself, no pressure. Kelna, who had remained remarkably composed thus far, tapped Ronan's shoulder. Human, your skills are notable, but this council is infamous for its rigor. Their critiques have ended culinary traditions on entire worlds. The Zygarn, now carrying Ronan's upgraded smoker as if it were a personal trophy, growled, then we shall not fail. Failure is for the weak. Ronan glanced at the massive alien. Great pep talk, really calming. As they approached the stage, one of the judges, a translucent orb like being named Vaslar, floated forward. It pulsated with a faint, bioluminescent glow as it spoke through a harmonic vibration that resonated in Ronan's chest. Human Representative Vaslar intoned, you have captured the interest of the galactic community with your culinary technique. Demonstrate this barbecue for the council. Impress us and your method may join the annals of unified cuisine. And if we don't impress, Ronan asked. Vaslar flickered briefly, a gesture that might have been a shrug. Extinction of your tradition is the likely outcome. Ronan sighed. Of course it is. With little time to prepare, Ronan sprang into action. The Ziltrans assembled a precise array of ingredients and tools, ensuring every aspect was accounted for. The Zygarn hefted the smoker onto the stage, its modifications gleaming ominously under the spotlights. Ronan's heart raced as he prepped the brisket, applying the spice rub with a practiced hand. The audience watched in silence, captivated by the strange mix of methodical precision and raw, smoky chaos. As the meat went into the smoker, the low hiss of wood meeting flame echoed through the hall. The smell of hickory began to waft out, eliciting curious murmurs from the crowd. "What is this smell?" one of the judges, a gelatinous being named Glurip, burbled. "It stirs unfamiliar emotions." "That's the magic of barbecue," Ronan said, injecting his words with as much confidence as he could muster. "It's not just food, it's a sensory experience." Vaslar pulsated thoughtfully. "This remains to be seen." As the hours crawled by, the Exultrans meticulously monitored the smoker's temperature and smoke levels, taking readings every few minutes. The Zygarn paced impatiently, muttering about the agonizing slowness of the process. Meanwhile, Ronan fielded questions from the judges, explaining the philosophy behind barbecue. "It's about taking something simple," he said, gesturing to the smoker, "and transforming it into something extraordinary. It's a celebration of time, fire, and community." The judges listened with guarded expressions, though Glurip seemed particularly intrigued. Time, fire, community, it mused, each word accompanied by a ripple in its gelatinous form. A curious trifecta. Finally, the moment arrived. Ronan opened the smoker, and a plume of fragrant smoke billowed out, revealing the brisket. The bark had formed perfectly, its surface glistening with rendered fat. He worked quickly, slicing the meat into even portions and presenting them on polished plates provided by the Siltrans. One by one, the judges sampled the brisket. The room was so quiet that the faint hum of the station's life support systems became audible. Ronan watched their reactions with bated breath. Glurip's gelatin quivered violently as it absorbed a piece. The complexity. It is as if the essence of a star's life cycle has been condensed into this morsel. Another judge, a crystalline entity named Tharn, emitted a series of melodic chimes. The interplay of texture and flavor is unexpectedly harmonious. Even Vaslar flickered with what might have been approval. "Human, your method conveys a narrative, one of transformation and resilience. It is admirable." The crowd erupted into applause, and Ronan felt his knees go weak with relief. Kelna, standing beside him, clicked its mandibles in what might have been a smile. The Zygarn pounded its chest triumphantly, causing the stage to tremble. "You have triumphed, human," the Zygarn bellowed. "Your fire has conquered the judge's doubt." "Thanks," Ronan said, grinning. "But it wasn't just my fire, it was teamwork." Kelna tilted its head, a rare admission of humility. "It is commendable." Vaslar floated forward, addressing the crowd. "The council declares that Earth's barbecue shall join the annals of unified cuisine, to be preserved and celebrated across the galaxy." The hall erupted into cheers, and Ronan couldn't help but laugh. Somehow, against all odds, humanity's humble barbecue had become a galactic sensation. As the celebration died down, Ronan found himself sitting on the edge of the stage, exhausted but content. Kelna and the Zygarn joined him, each holding a plate of brisket. "You've created something remarkable," Kelna said, its tone uncharacteristically warm. "Perhaps there is value in this community you speak of." The Zygarn nodded, its usual bluster replaced with a rare moment of introspection. "Your method has proven its strength. It is worthy." Ronan chuckled, taking a bite of brisket. "It's not just my method anymore. You both had a hand in it." Kelna's antennae twitched. "Perhaps. We did." And as the three of them sat together, sharing a meal under the glow of the Convergence Hall's lights, Ronan realized that barbecue had done more than secure a place in the annals of unified cuisine. It had bridged the divide between species, proving that even in the vastness of the galaxy, the simple act of sharing food could bring people together. The Convergence Hall had settled into a mellow hum as the crowd dispersed, but Ronan's barbecue booth was far from quiet. A growing coalition of species had gathered, not just to sample brisket, but to discuss how they might incorporate Earth's techniques into their own culinary traditions. Representatives of species Ronan couldn't even name were exchanging notes, pointing at his smoker, and debating the merits of smoke versus other methods of cooking. Kelna and the Zygarn, still lingering near the booth, seemed to have embraced a tentative truce born of mutual respect and perhaps mutual hunger. Ronan was packing up his tools when a petite, rodent-like alien with glossy fur and a tail adorned with bioluminescent rings approached. Its high-pitched voice squeaked with excitement. "Human, I am a culinary archivist from Thurnuk. We require your assistance immediately." Ronan blinked. Sure, but can it wait? I've been on my feet all day." The Thurnokian shook its tiny head furiously, its tail flickering with urgency. "No, there is a crisis. A delegation of Grathoks has threatened to declare their food superior to all others unless a contender challenges them at the upcoming Great Galactic Feast. Your brisket is the only dish that has created such a sensation." Ronan's shoulders sagged. "Let me guess. If nobody challenges them, they get to claim their food is the best." "Yes," the Thurnokian said gravely, "and their victory will allow them to impose their culinary practices on all affiliated worlds for one galactic cycle." Kelna clicked its mandibles. "This is unacceptable. The Grathok's cuisine is notorious for its unpalatable aggressiveness." The Zygarn growled in agreement. "Their food is an insult to the strength required of a true meal. Human, you must accept this challenge." Ronan exhaled deeply, staring at the smoker that had somehow become the centerpiece of intergalactic diplomacy. "Guess I don't have much of a choice." The Great Galactic Feast was held in a colossal amphitheater on the edge of Elvora Prime. The space was designed to hold thousands, with tiered seating spiraling upward and holographic projections ensuring every attendee had a perfect view. Ronan stood at a gleaming preparation station, his smoker polished to a near-mirror shine after the Zygarn's upgrades. Across from him stood the Grathok delegation, a trio of hulking, reptilian beings wearing aprons that looked more like battle armor. Their station was dominated by a massive cauldron bubbling ominously. The lead Grathok, a towering figure named Krazik, sneered at Ronan. "A puny human dares to challenge the might of Grathok cuisine. Your defeat will be swift." Ronan shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "We'll see. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve." The rules of the contest were simple. Each side had 1 galactic hour to prepare a dish that would be judged by a panel of 5 neutral species. The audience, a roaring sea of aliens, would serve as the tiebreaker if needed. As the timer started, Krazik and his team went to work, throwing massive slabs of what looked like molten rock into their cauldron. The concoction emitted a sulfurous stench that made Ronan gag. "Is that edible?" he muttered under his breath, turning to his own preparations. Kelna and the Zygarn stood behind him, ready to assist. The Siltran was meticulously arranging ingredients, while the Zygarn hefted a stack of wood as if it weighed nothing. "What is the plan?" Human Kelna asked, its antennae twitching with anticipation. "Same as always," Ronan said, rubbing a brisket with his spice blend. "We're going to let the meat and smoke do the talking." The Zygarn grunted approvingly. "A wise strategy. Fire does not lie." As the hour ticked by, the amphitheater filled with contrasting aromas: the acrid, eye-watering fumes of the Grathok's dish and the warm, smoky scent of Ronan's brisket. The audience leaned forward in their seats, visibly torn between curiosity and repulsion. Kelna monitored the smoker's temperature with a device of its own invention, making micro-adjustments to ensure perfection. The Zygarn, despite its usual disdain for patience, seemed oddly calm, feeding logs into the smoker with methodical care. Finally, the timer buzzed, signaling the end of the cooking period. The Grathoks presented their dish first, a heaping mound of what looked like smoldering embers atop a slab of volcanic glass. Krazik growled as he addressed the judges. "This is Feroct Blaze. Only the strongest palates can endure its glory." The judges hesitated before sampling, their expressions ranging from cautious to outright horrified. One judge, a feathered avian nearly toppled out of its seat after a single bite, its feathers fluffing in alarm. Another judge, the gelatinous glurip, jiggled violently, emitting what sounded like a distressed warble. When it was Ronan's turn, he approached the judges with calm confidence. Kelna handed him the brisket, and he plated it with care, adding a drizzle of homemade sauce for good measure. This is Earth-style smoked brisket. It's not about strength or endurance, it's about flavor and tradition. The judges tasted his dish, their reactions immediate and profound. The avian judge let out a melodic trill of delight, while Glurip undulated in what could only be described as a happy dance. The audience erupted into cheers, their allegiance clearly swaying toward the human. Krazik snarled, "This is an insult. How can such a simple dish compete with the complexity of Ferak's blaze?" One of the judges, a crystalline being, spoke with deliberate authority. Complexity does not equate to excellence. The human's dish tells a story of balance, resilience, and ingenuity. The Grathok's dish, while bold, lacks such nuance. The amphitheater's roar grew deafening as the judges declared Ronan the winner. Krazik and his team stormed off the stage, their defeat marked by a trail of acrid smoke. Later that evening, Ronan found himself back at his booth, basking in the glow of his victory. Kelna and the Zygarn joined him, each holding a plate of leftover brisket. "You have achieved something remarkable," Kelna said, its tone tinged with respect. "Your methods have not only triumphed but united disparate beings." The Zygarn nodded. "You wield fire with honor, human. It is a rare gift." Ronan laughed, raising a glass of sweet tea. "Here's to barbecue, the universal language." As they toasted under the lights of Elvora Prime, Ronan couldn't help but marvel at how far a simple tradition from Earth had carried him. For once, he allowed himself to savor the moment, knowing that the smoky legacy of barbecue would burn brightly across the galaxy for generations to come.